And welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. It is an exciting Friday. Talking season Schlegs is finally done. This is the last Saturday without football. You're going to start to have NFL preseason games coming up here next weekend. College football is going to be all reporting here. Some schools are probably reporting early in the week. Ohio State, I believe, first practice is Thursday, probably reporting on Wednesday. And so that final weekend, the final countdown. And we are
It's the final countdown.
well, and Schlegs were 1 week out, T-minus from the conditioning test and my birthday. So, it's always a bittersweet time. My birthday, excited for that, but always excited to start the season. But just, it's going to be a lot of work. And the guy who's always working and always grinding is Bill Bender. He is going to be joining us here, sliding on in, and there is Bill, and he works as hard as anybody. As you dive in now, Bill, now we actually get things that you get to write about and tell the stories of the season and the narratives that are coming through. But as you start the season, is there not a pit in your stomach, but just of understanding that from now until about Valentine's Day, you're going to be running on a treadmill, as fast as you can each and every day?
Yeah. It's work-life balance. You run to approach the season. This week was a preview. Anytime you do a media days, it's 3 days constantly on the go. As I told you guys, we went to ACC this week, which was a bit of an alternative. But part of that was, I think the storylines at Big Ten were expected on some level. You didn't hear anything about Ryan Day going overly viral or anything controversial other than, and I know we'll get into it, Tony Petitti and the playoff and what he's saying and where the Big Ten stance is on that versus kind of the other 3 Power 4 conferences. So I don't think, but school-wise at the Big Ten, it didn't seem like anything made a large splash. And it was a bizarre feeling yesterday watching 73-year-old Bill Belichick climb onto a breakout podium. And not only that, and then he was, Bobby, you probably know more about this than I do. He was congenial. He was friendly.
Really?
It was nice. It was weird. So what a fun day that was.
Hey, let's talk about the ACC. So we heard in the Big 12, a lot of people were throwing shots across the bow at the SEC, which is great. Everybody's taking it to the SEC. Nobody's really saying anything about the Big Ten. And but what were the big stories coming that you feel that are coming out of the ACC for the season, where they should be in the playoffs? What are some of those big takeaways having been in Charlotte for you for the ACC?
Well, Belichick was the main attraction yesterday, and it's very rare that you see cameramen line up just to watch him walk down the hall. And this is year one, and that could easily wear off if they struggle on the field. But I think the novelty of that, at least at first, was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You sit there and listen to him answer questions for an hour and had a couple one-liners in there, but he is very set on. And the thing that stood out, and again, Bobby, you probably have some insight on this, is that he's saying we're making this a pro program. Like, we're running this like a pro program, maybe not to the extent that he did at New England, but that's the idea there. And I do think if you look at their schedule, if they can get through September, their last 7 games, they could go on a little run and make it very interesting. And then after that, it was Clemson has a team this year. They do. They're top 5. I think it's valid. A lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Miami and Florida State are kind of the next story to me, is when are those 2 schools going to break through? Florida State hasn't made the playoff in 10 years. Miami's never made the playoff, never won an ACC championship. I know I've said that on here before.
Jeez.
So, I mean, would you have ever dreamed that we all grew up with them? Would you ever dream that they had never won an ACC championship in 20 plus years?
I mean, it's a little bit, their story is almost kind of similar, and they've had a little bit, some other spikes, but it's kind of like the Nebraska to the Big Ten, where if you would have said, when Nebraska joins the Big Ten, you're about 15 years in, and, they've played for it once or twice, but never really been, a big time contender, never won it. In Miami, after they joined, after they left the Big East, 20 years, so that was 2005. Was that our senior year then? Schlegs, they were rolling, Bill. You know that. And to never win the ACC is wild to think. Juxtapose this for everybody, since you got to be down there. Dabo Swinney is the perpetual college. He was resistant to the portal, NIL. If you start paying players, I'm leaving, which he didn't do. Still coaching down there at Clemson. And I think he's great for the sport. And I've kind of come full circle on him where loved him, didn't like him, whined too much. And now I think he's a little bit more endearing. But just juxtapose him and Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick's saying, we're running this like a professional sports program. And then Dabo Swinney, who's trying to keep all the collegiality of the game as much as he can.
Yeah, and it's weird where we judge the podium and the breakout sessions, the crowd around it every year, right? So like when you do Big Ten, you expect you got to get the Ryan Day's thing early because we know how many reporters are going to be around. You might get smushed in between a couple reporters. I like all those guys; they know that, but getting smashed in between Tim May and somebody else for an hour can be uncomfortable. Michigan's is always pretty large. And then at this event, it was definitely Clemson, had a lot around Dabo, and then North Carolina. But I would say probably because of the newness factor with Belichick, he had more around him. Dabo, always a good breakout session, though. Very long, detailed answers. And I think he's loose right now because he knows he has a really good team. They have the guys on the defensive line. They have Cade Klubnik, a 3-year starter. Antonio Williams, he'll play in the league. And this test against LSU didn't bite on the Death Valley thing. Brian Kelly calling Clemson Death Valley Jr. They kind of went with it's an important game like the other 11 game speech. So I found that interesting.
So you've covered them all. You put them in sporting news. What's the highlight of all the talk that's been going on as we go into fall camp next week that you've gathered throughout college football, the Power Four, college football playoff? What's the main nugget? What's your main takeaway of somebody that covers the sport for a living?
Well, I think most of the talk is off the field still, unfortunately, whether it was the executive bill that's trying to get passed or all the talk about the playoff and how far apart the SEC and the Big Ten are, in my sense, and talking to the people I've talked to, is that we're probably going to do 12 for a minute. I think we're going to do 12 this year. I think we'll do 12 next year, and we'll see where it goes from there. But there is a definitely gap between the thinking there. You look at a commissioner like Jim Phillips in the ACC. I think he does a nice job. They could have lost Clemson and Florida State. They could have gone the way that the Big 12, lose your two perennial powers, or like the Pac-12, but they've survived. They've thrived. I'll be honest, one of the surreal moments of the week was I was at like a reception and bumped into Andrew Luck and then just started talking to him. And you know how for me in this job, it was just kind of that moment of like, this is pretty cool that I'm talking to him. But you had that realization that, yeah, Stanford is in the ACC. This is the world we live in now.
Yeah, it's when I was like, what the heck is Andrew Luck doing there? Oh, wait a second. Stanford is in the ACC, which
right.
The most unlikely pairing that you're going to find. As part of that, one of the things, Bill, over the last couple of years, anytime the coaches would talk, we've heard them get onto some of these bigger picture college football things, and whether it's the playoff, whether it's the portal, whether it's NIL. Does it feel like any of that is subsided now as we've been into this stuff now for a couple of years and maybe getting out of the realm of those, bigger picture topics and starting to hone back in on, the actual coaching of the game?
Yeah, the coaching the game. Pat Narduzzi said something really interesting that, what we're losing is, and what they're really trying to work on is the development of coaches. Mm-hmm. And that because of all these changes to the game, something that gets lost is the development of coaches, where they have time to go to coaching clinics and learn their whatever position group they're doing to be better coaches. And Pat, and I don't know how much you guys have been around him, he's as old school as they come. He is a old school, really good coach at Pitt. He's been doing it a long time, and you can tell his players love him and all that. But that was something that stuck out, is that maybe now that these changes have taken effect and we're not spending as much time on those, we can continue to work on improving the quality of the game on the field and developing NFL players. And if they're not NFL players, coaches off the field. And I think that's something that will happen over the next few years. And he's always an interesting press conference, by the way. Pat's pretty unfiltered, and I like the coaches. I kind of gravitate to the ones that will tell you exactly like it is.
Yeah, Chris just said, I wish Penn State would play Pitt again. I do like that. And guess what? You can. You schedule it in the non-conference. I mean, cowboy up, you know.
Yeah.
My one thing, too, is when they talk about development, and this is what we all go into, like they said the same thing about players. I don't ever like excuses, regardless if you are old school, develop your coaches. But it goes back to what they talk about, which is fixing the calendar. How close do you think we are to actually – and I know you're saying we're going to be with the 12 for a minute, but about solidifying a true college football calendar. Right, the good thing is, like, Ryan Day has never made it an excuse, right, going into this season. I mean, we're already started behind the 8 ball, and we know that, but he feels really good about where we are because of, I think, how they did it going into the college football national championship on January 20th. How close are we to having a solidified college football calendar that can allow for all these different things to transpire, not only to the development of your team in the offseason, but the development of coaches?
Yeah, I thought his thoughts on the portal were spot on. You know, if you're in that position and where there should only be one, and maybe we get it down to that where there's not all this confusion with the roster management there, I still think we should bump the season up. We've talked about that on here where you maybe bump it up a week. I don't know that the powers that be are in a hurry to compress the playoff calendar, but that's one I'll continue to harp on because there's a big difference to me from playing through like January 7th or 8th versus January 19th or 20th. And, you know, both practically for college students and impractically for going head to head against the NFL and the NFL machine. So I think all of those things are at work. And, you know, whether it's the signing day, adjusting the transfer portal times, I've always been a proponent of, you know, and they do that to some extent, letting kids commit before their senior year of high school if they're going to play high school football, so it's out of the way. You know what I mean? So they don't have to worry about recruiting and all that, and they can go out and enjoy their senior season of high school football. I've always thought that's important, but I understand the reasons why that hasn't been prioritized as much. Because, you know what, I had a coach tell me that the portal has impacted high school kids the most. Because, you know, some of those kids that are maybe late bloomers might not get on a team because of guys that are schools moving in guys in and out of the portal at the rate that they do. And I think there's something to that.
Well, there's definitely something to that. And I was going to say this too, and it goes back to our point of moving the season up. The difference between college football and the NFL is those guys are gone for 5 weeks. And Bob can attest to this. Not everyone comes in, regardless of how much they get paid, camp ready. And so, and they've already eliminated it going to 3 scrimmages, right? 3 preseason games. But you can move it up. And the reason you can move it up is because you got them all year. And that's really the point. Bob, go ahead with I just want to throw that out there. Bob, hit your question.
Yeah, no, it's good, Schleggs. It's a very valid point. As we move through here, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We've got a great question in the chat for Bill about what he thinks about some of the new developments in college football. So stay locked in here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. We got our guy, Bill Bender, here with us. Bill, before we get back into some more football-heavy questions, Dave Portnoy of Barstool is going to be joining Big Noon Kick. And I think that's probably in response to the McAfee effect. But what people had astutely pointed out to us, it's like Pat actually played football and played in the NFL and was a Pro Bowl punter and done a lot of great things. Are you a fan of that move? What are your thoughts on it, or what the folks want to know?
It is a counter move, like you said. And, you know, there is an audience for guys like Pat and what he does with his show, for sure. I know I tune in. I did the Aaron Rodgers interviews. They were automatic content for guys like us when he does those. And I think they do have an audience. And I think there's a balance to what Pat and Dave bring to the traditional game day feel or Fox Big Noon feel. Now, I'll be honest. I mean, I like both guys. I understand that they produce a lot of content. Pat, like you said, had played, so there's a level there that he reaches that Dave doesn't. And then, but I still watch for like Nick Saban and Urban Meyer. Those are my favorite guys on those shows, honestly, because Nick and Urban have succeeded at the highest level. They do that. I mean, Kirk obviously has done it. I'm really interested to see how we give Lee Corso a farewell, because he's the guy that built this thing in a lot of ways with for those of us who remember them being on the field in Notre Dame, Florida State so many years ago. So I do like the balance of information, but not taking yourself too seriously. And we'll see if that continues. But my favorite part has always been, like I said, guys like Saban, Urban, Kirk, that get you ready for that full day of Saturday.
Yeah, I'm getting better at asking these questions, Bill. And since you threw out two monsters of a game, who do you like listening to better, Nick Saban or Urban Meyer?
Don't put me up to that.
So you don't have to pick one. What do you like? How about this? Let's rephrase the question, as Vrabel would say, and spin it into a positive manner. What do you like about them when they talk ball? Each individual one, Saban and Coach Meyer.
So I'll start with Urban, because I've had several conversations with him since he left Ohio State, and obviously for articles, and he still talks with such emotion and passion for the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. That's typically when I call him, is that week. And obviously with the 7-0 record, he knew what he was doing in that game. But I do think he is, I don't want to say easier, but he'll give you more now that he's not coaching. When he was coaching, he was a very good press conference, but he knew what to say and what not to say. And then I would say the same about Nick Saban. Nick Saban on TV, much more relaxed. When you caught Nick Saban before a big game, it could be pretty tight. And you had to watch. What I respected about both as a reporter, though, is some coaches, you don't have to write out the question. I would write it out before I asked it, because I was like, I don't want to mess up any part of this question and basically get dunked on by a hyper successful coach. I always made sure. And you know what, Nick Saban, when he had his blowups, I was the question, like 2 questions before one of them once. So I was so glad I wasn't the guy that got lit up.
Oh, that's great. And like Mike Vrabel, he went into someone up there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was, I think, because Tom Curran, he said Tom earlier, so I think it was Tom Curran, who covers the Pats, asked about like leading into the fall and all this stuff, the 5 weeks leading into the season and the roster and how they're responding. And Braves, and I said, anytime I try to do this stuff, Bill, I usually have a set of topics that I want to kind of get covered. And part of it is listening to what other people ask. And I go, I don't need to ask like the gotcha question, the best one. I just want to get the answers to what I'm saying. And so as they get asked, I kind of check them off and write the answers kind of along. And if it spurs something else, then I'll continue to move along and try to develop something. But I couldn't believe that like, they would ask the same question back to back. And Vrabes isn't going to pull any punches. I mean, he's going to let them know. Because frankly, like they're up there for a specific allotted amount of time, and you want to make sure you're getting all of that information. Do you have you said you write them out, but do you have like a specific process of how you do that when you're sitting in those,
right,
whether it's a media scrum or even more importantly, them at the podium?
Well, like yesterday, I know I got the last question in with Belichick, but you just wanted to make sure that, one, it's not a yes, no, not with a really good coach, because they could literally just say, yeah, no, and then be done. And then frame it in a way that you hope they give a good answer. Like, for example, I asked Bill Belichick yesterday, pretty much, what drew you when you were scouting college football players all those years to come to the college game? Was there something in all those years where you were scouting that made this challenge unique for you? And he went into an answer. He said, I love college football. He seems to be enjoying the process of going to high school football games and recruiting, and as the challenge of, the X's and O's part with him. And I thought it was a good answer. He went on for more than 5 words, so I think we got that, and that was clutch. But yeah, you just want to make sure that you don't ask questions where they can say yes or no, and make sure that you're asking questions. Like, I never pretend to know the X's and O's part at the level of you guys or coaches or former players, but when I need a question about the X's and O's side of it, I'm not afraid to ask it, because I want them to tell me, okay, what in this coverage am I missing? Because so I'm not the idiot that's just writing something that's completely false. And that goes for on and off the field.
Hey, I got a great one from Chris. This is a 2-part banger. I want you to answer the first one. How do you rank Ryan Day as an interview?
Well, I mean, he's the FWAA Coach of the Year because of the way he interviews, and because like I've done the Ohio State beat for long enough that when you know how competitive and large that beat is, and it's larger than a lot of NFL beats, he takes. I don't think coaches have to grant like 45 minutes of podium time. A lot of them only do 15, 20. He'll answer more than a half hour of questions, and they have. Jerry just does such a good job over there with the access that they give. I thought the way that they presented the playoff against Tennessee, that was first class. We actually recommended that. But yeah, I would say as an interview, he's honest, he's open, he's accountable. He was very accountable last year with the loss at the end of the season and then everything that came afterwards. So I would say, and I would almost say that Ryan Day probably, we've talked about this, he probably could have unloaded a little more after beating Notre Dame, and he didn't. And that just says what kind of person he really is. So I would say very high as far as an interview and a very good guy.
Hey, I'm going to eliminate my 2-part banger because I know we got to get you out of here. So Bob, you wrap it up because I appreciate Richard Bender.
Okay. The final
the final countdown.
I'm going to give you the mic. You got your second.
Well, no, my thing was this. I want you to go back to, because you already mentioned it earlier, Tony Petitti, the Big Ten, where they stand. There's already like some controversy about like his letter. Again, he could have easily said, "Hey man, I was like out. So I wrote a letter. I wasn't there." But do you like where he is right now and trying to position the Big Ten to be the best conference in college football? Richard Bender, go.
Well, just I'm not, and we've talked about it. I don't know that they need 4 automatic qualifiers. I get why they're doing it though. And I think this is a negotiation of sorts to get the SEC and the ACC to play 9 games. At least I hope that's where it is, because the Big Ten's on top right now. The 18-team thing works. Ohio State's at its best. Penn State's at its best. Michigan's 2 years removed from its first national title in a long time. And Oregon was a good addition. If they ever got USC going at the level that they're capable of, there's no stopping this conference. So I think all of those things are at work, but I don't want the Big Ten to overplay their hand. I think there's a responsibility that comes with this. I hope the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12 can work toward a new playoff. But as far as the TV, the revenue, the programs, they got to fix Ohio State's television windows a little bit. We've talked about that. But I think the Big Ten's on top right now and positioned to do that well, because it is like NFL light. They are all across the country, and they've got compelling brands, compelling games, and some pretty good teams at the top. And this year, it's not bad to start with 2 best players in college football, and Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, who apparently can't check into a hotel. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, crazy.
They got a young squad, experience in some spots, but they've got some young guys out there as well. Bill, we appreciate your time. I know you've been running around, like you said, in Charlotte all week and spending some time with us on Friday. We really appreciate it, sir.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to get in the regular schedule next week. We'll talk again then.
Here we go. Our guy, Bill Bender, doing a great job down there at Charlotte, like at the ACC Media Days, covering some of that and giving us a little flavor and a little flair inside. I love, Pat Narduzzi said the straight shooter. Do you know Pat Schleggs? I'm sure you've been around him.
I've met Pat, yes. He was with Dino.
Yeah, when he was the DC at Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and Michigan State.
And Michigan State, right? So very similar type guys, old school guys, shoots it straight. I like that. I appreciate the fact that he's thinking about his coaches. The problem, honestly, I wouldn't think it's the coaches developing. It's the use of the coaches' time and how much they have to spend recruiting, because they're not only recruiting their own players all the time, but they're also recruiting people potentially in a portal and high school. So there's just more time that goes there. You don't have a finite amount of time. And that's why I asked the question about solidifying a yearly calendar.
Yeah, they've got to figure
which makes more sense to me than say we're not developing coaches. You know what I mean? Hey, always be coaching, always be developing, Pat. Like, you should know that too. Like, go be a dog. No excuses over here, man.
There are no excuses. Speaking of which, there's a little trouble down in Paradise, if you consider Knoxville Paradise. They had Nico Iamaleava obviously leave last year. They're not last year, but before the spring game this year, holding out and moving on. And one of their other very talented players has not been participating maybe as much as he should. Give you the details on that, and then what how Schlegs would handle this as a coach and what you do when you maybe have someone
my
who's
gosh.
maybe not all the way there. I'll fill you in and let you know who it is here coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
And attention parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouthguards, trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouthguards are scientifically tested to absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouthguards have 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber. They custom 3D print that bad boy right to your grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit the Armory on August 2nd. That is a week from tomorrow from 9 to noon and receive 20% off your Export mouthguard using promo code XSPORT20 when you schedule your appointment. So go check it out. Go see Schlegs over there. He'll be running around, popping his traps, popping his pecs, and getting fitted up that little grill in. Schlegs, star defensive back for Tennessee. I believe he's their return man as well. Boo Carter. And this was reported by, I think, On3. The Nashville News Sentinel, I think, as well, was talking about it, or Knoxville News Sentinel. And it's just been player-led and workouts and some of the stuff that they do, and probably some of their OTA things, but and it's all voluntary. But he has been notably absent from a lot of these activities to the point where some of the veterans on the team, the senior leadership, confronted him about it and have tried to encouraged him to come, but he has decided not to. And now I referenced the Nico Iamaleava stuff because it was said in there that this isn't apparently a holdout situation, but they did what anybody would do now, Schlegs. They reached out to his agent. His agent said, well, I haven't been able to get a hold of him for weeks either. I think he's maybe fired me, hired another agent, potentially that was shown on social media. But this is the new era in college football. And we hear Ryan talk about culture and everything and how it's so important getting the right people there. As a coach, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, how do you handle that situation?
Well, first off, there ain't no such thing as player-led anymore, Bob, because you can fit it into your hours that you have. We run OTAs, and it's just part of what you do. We run them first. We condense that run, knowing that they're also doing running during those OTA periods with their coaches. So therefore, it ain't player-led, because sometimes when it's player-led and you don't have the right veterans to lead it, it can go sideways very, very quickly.
It's like a side nugget, or is that a bad side?
No. It goes sideways in the wrong way. And so that's why you build it in to the program, and coaches are there and involved, and it's planned, right? It's programmed and it's planned. So how do you handle the situation? You got a kid that's a freshman All-American, sophomore. He's done some other things, potentially believes that he has more. As a coach, what do you do? Like, this is a hard conversation with him, parents, whoever his new agent is. But that's why you have to have a hard stance as to how are you running your program? Because if you give an inch, they can all take a mile, and that's coaches or players. So what is the standard? And I tell you this too, man.
Standard is the standard, Schleich.
The standard is the standard. And it's like, hey, and when you have that, and there is no gray, regardless of where you are, regardless of the value that you add. Guys, I can tell you, there were 6 guys that started. That's something that maybe not 6, probably like 4 or 5 prominent dudes were late. Like, 30 minute, something happened. Doesn't matter. Bill Belichick, man. I mean, in the NFL, you miss it. You're late. I was late for a rookie special teams meeting. Like, it wasn't even documented. It's just kind of like we're showing up and doing it, but it was on the schedule. Fine, $7,500. I mean, that's like 3 hot dogs right there. Poof, David Copperfield. So the question is, like, can you start finding them? Like, are these things that you can build into your contract? Right? I mean, there's the weight limit stuff.
So Florida State, interestingly enough, and we haven't gotten to this yet, but there's been a lot of people that are upset with the way Florida State is doing this, because I guess written into some of their contracts, they have, like, if you lose team gear, they have like dollar amounts set of different penalties for things if you don't follow through, you lost a team gear, late for meeting, different things like that. These are fines that are in the thousands of dollars. And so there are teams that are starting to build that in. I don't know what the proliferation of that looks like and how widespread it is, but that is something that has occurred and been real.
Hey guys, and I'd say this, if you're getting paid, if they're doing these things and you're under contract, even though I don't know what the contracts look like because you have two portals, then you 100% as an organization have every right to be able to fine them for those type of things. And if you're like, well, then don't go there. Like, that's an option. As long as it's clear and articulated, don't go there. But it goes back. All this goes back to, who are you recruiting? What type of player are you recruiting? And you're like, oh, this guy's the guy that hold out. Like, what's your second best option? Have you been down the rabbit hole more? Are there other second best options that you want to spend your money? If you're going to spend your money, you better spend it on a guy that's good, that's all about the team. Still get yours. Do it the right way. But this is what happens. And I don't necessarily know and want to say that it's this what is going on. This is the new norm in college football, because it's not the new norm at Ohio State. And how can we unequivocally say that? Last year there were 0 guys in the transfer portal, and it's probably one of the most highly competitive rosters that is in the country. And nobody left. Why? Development. Give a shit. And I say that GSF in a politically correct way.
Exactly. I know that
radio, right?
Yeah, I know that you always do that, Schlegs, in a positive way.
It's all positive. Nothing's negative.
But Ryan talked about it. One of his quotes out of Big Ten Media Days was, they talk about, happiness of the team. He's like, people don't care about being happy here. They want to be developed. Like, your players don't want to be happy.
Trust me, they ain't happy, guys. I mean,
By the way, Happy Gilmore Happy Gilmore 2 came out today. So
I'm watching it tonight. But Bob, honestly, because you're there at the workouts, I've taken them through the workouts.
Yeah. I
had a train like a Buckeye thing at the Armory last year. I should probably redo that, because there are some people that were not they were happy it was over. They weren't happy when they were going through it. All right.
That's usually, that's how it's supposed to be, though.
It's 100% how it's supposed to be, guys.
You embrace it. Don't wait for the end. But as we talk,
don't get through it. Grow from it, Bob.
Yes, absolutely. And you got to lean into it. And what's interesting, before we get going, we've got a great little headlines for some of the top 10 questions in college football, and we'll get to some of those here after this. But these guys are going through training camp. It's going to be hard. It's going to be physical. The fan bike stuff they do with Mick, incredibly hard. They found a way to make conditioning even tougher. But you put yourself through that, obviously, so that you're prepared and ready to go. But psychologically coming in, because people are like, oh, this is tough. I'm like, it's the worst. I said, okay. So I've tried to do a lot of hard things in my life, and I try to continue to push the boundaries. That's what we're going to do the conditioning test next week. And so psychologically going into it, it's like, I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm preparing myself mentally for the worst space ever in my mind. Like, this is going to be the hardest thing I'm doing. It's prepare like it's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And so you're ready to experience the depths of what that's going to feel like and how that's going to hit your body. And the more you get there, the more comfortable you live in that. And like you said, Schlegs, you always you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's the greatest paradox in the world, but that's the reality of it. And you've got to be able to live in that and experience that and know when it's time to go there. Sometimes, Schlegs, you got to put that scuba outfit on and you got to dive deep. All right. You gotta get the way we're going deep, all the way down, and it's going to suck and it's not going to be very much fun. And you watch those guys, and the guys that can psychologically do that, they're the ones that are the best. And it's not a function of ability, because far too often guys will quit and they got more in the bag. They just don't know it. They haven't really been willing to reach the bottom of the sack and start finding around in the bottom of the barrel there. Like, what is at the bottom? Like, they think they've gotten there, but they really haven't when they're digging.
Guys, listen, I'm going to tell you something. This is one of the best things I ever took away from Coach Mick. We never give the guys the workouts. Like, we used to get them, Bob.
I know.
We used to get them. Well, we used to get them. Yep. I mean, guys, I'm giving you a side note because Jay Hooten I mean, he was RGA and he was the head strength coach at Northwestern. He runs all the sports performance here at the Armory. And we used to go in early, see what the workouts were, do a workout before the workout. And then that way we knew. And like, if I was squatting that day, knowing we got to run cut 300s, like it was like, man, do I really want to go hit this huge monster number knowing what it's going to do to me? And I still probably would. And then I would cuss out Al Jiggity because he's stupid. And I still love Al. But he doesn't do that because we don't want him saving anything. We want him emptying the tank, being fast, hard, and violent, lifting with intent the entire time. I don't want you to save it so that you can spill it on when you're ready.
Yeah.
Because that's not the game of football. Like everything, it was funny. I was talking to a young man today. We were training at 6 a.m. He's going off to play college football. And I was like, dude, everything I've ever done in the weight room pairs with football. Like before I go into a squat rack, I don't wear a belt. When I put the belt on, it's because I'm going to go do business. Just like when I buckle my chin strap, I'm going to go dent faces. Like that's the mindset. And then as I coach it, it's alignment, assignment, alerts, and adjustment. What's my alignment? How do I take the bar off a rack? Where are my hands? How do I set my feet? How do I brace? Like alignment issues. It just goes on from there. I try to tie the game mentally throughout all of my training year round because I feel that the way I process those things allows me to process the game better, and I'm constantly training for it. Just like we do the competitions, we train competitive excellence 365. 365. And it's there for everybody to see.
Absolutely. We got a break, but before we break, we'll tell you about our friends over at Backer Schlegs, bckr.com, the premium Buckeye gear for the premium Buckeye fans. They've got the windbreakers, the cold gear, the rain gear. They've got it all. They've got hats. It's got all the features and functionality you want. It's the premium brand. It's got unbelievable appearance, unbelievable feel. It's going to maybe cost a tad bit more, but you're going to get all of that back in the value. I promise you that. I love my stuff. Use promo code BOBBY, all caps at checkout to get free expedited shipping. And also a portion of the proceeds goes back to Ohio State NIL. That's backer, bckr.com. Check them out. Headlines coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now we've got our headlines brought to you by our friends at Lake Spur Marketing. Schlegs, they're their marketing team that prides themselves on delivering powerful and positive results. Full transparency. They're going to lay it all out on the table for you and be with you every single step of the way. They're going to be in constant communication with all of their clients and partners. At Lake Spur Marketing, there isn't a set it and forget it strategy. They're going to develop tactics that are specific to your industry and to your business. Trust the experts. Trust Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in their partners. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today. All right, Schlegs. Sonny Styles was one of the guys out there Tuesday in Las Vegas talking at media days, and there's a lot of worry about the D-line. We've broken the D-line down. We've broken down the linebackers. We'll hit DBs and start plowing through the offense next week. But Kenyatta Jackson, Sonny Styles was asked about him, or maybe he just started talking about him freely. Of what he's going to be. And when Kenyatta got to Ohio State, I saw him walk in and instantly I thought of DeMarcus Ware. He reminded me of his physical build, the way he walked, the way he even stands during conditioning is crazy.
Yeah, he does.
I was joking with CJ Hicks about that because he crosses his leg. DeMarcus is one of the only guys I've ever seen do that. And then I saw KJ. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But he's got all the physical.
When he's resting, because I just want you guys to know, to like stand up cross-legged, it's like, how the hell do you do that?
Like when he's tired on the field and you see him during the huddle, you'll watch, he'll cross his legs and kind of lean forward a little bit. It's wild. And DeMarcus is the only other guy that I used to know that would do that. But Sonny came out and said Kenyatta Jackson is going to be an absolute monster, one of the best defensive ends in the country. And for a guy, Schlegs, who's played in some spot duty, and has played a decent amount, big time, top 100 player, I think top 50 player out of the state of Florida, looks the part. And when they had him working out at pro day with the other defensive linemen, people saw like, who the heck is this guy? I'm like, yeah.
Right.
And so I told KJ, dude, they know about you now. So if you're not performing and producing next year, people are going to wonder what's going on, because you have all of the physical attributes that are required, and you're behind Jack and JT. So that's fine. But now it's your turn, and you only need 1 year. So let's go see what you got.
Yeah, Bob, great points. He's gotten significantly bigger.
Yeah.
And I believe with as versatile as Matt Patricia could potentially be, there is a place for KJ to be able to be unleashed on people. He is by far you look at Jack and JT, like Jack is, I would say it this way, like a J, and I'm not comparing, but JJ Watt is not as athletic as, his brother. I think his brother has a little bit more bendability. Jack is kind of that way. JT was very explosive and twitchy, but sometimes not as fluid. Kenyatta he's fluid. Like he's just, you got to watch bodies all the time to be able to understand kind of what I'm trying to articulate right here. But he's just very smooth and can bend the corner. And this is no knock on JT by in any stretch of the imagination, but it's just he has a little bit more bendability and dipability than both of them. But you're behind freaks. Now it's your turn. And you're right, Bob. Like it only takes 1 year. And as the NFL game has transitioned to, it's like quarterback, and then how do we match that up? And wide receiver, how do we match that up defensively? Cornerbacks and DNs. And where does that fit on a DN? And so I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see how it plays out and what kind of position, because you have the other guys that transfer that are some bigger body dudes that can slide in, right? And remember we had that Rushman package? Yeah. We had that Rushman package. Well, that Rushman package could be those type of guys, but they're moving, they're angling. Because also, Caden can hold a point. Like he can, not that he's going to go play a 3 technique, but he can go in there. And if you just got to be able to like line up and like shock a dude and hold him and take a double team, a guy going just free to a linebacker, he can do that.
Absolutely. All right. That is it for our headlines brought to you by Lakespur. We got our Tailgate Talk where we answer your questions coming up next. All right, welcome in to our Tailgate Talk on the Bobby Carpenter Show, brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck Schlegs. And
my people,
a couple great questions in here. Ed threw out already if we had talked about the executive order yet. Schlegs, have you read anything on that? Are you up to speed with it?
No.
That was issued by President Trump. He issued an executive order
about the banning.
They're trying to find the pay for play, and it's. From what I've read, like it's very loosely written, so they're going to have to probably do more stuff. And I think he's probably trying to spur some legislation on about it. But that was a question about Ed, and we haven't discussed it because as I'd read through it, there wasn't a whole lot of meat, like trying to ban the pay for play and some different things. And the House settlement has kind of worked through some of that already. There need to be more legislation around some things. As well, and like to codify it, you would have to have it be legislation as well as just opposed to an executive order. But it's a good question, Ed. We'll talk a little bit more about it.
I would just say this, Bob. To me, the executive order, if they go with the fact that every NIL deal has to be vetted and validated by a second party, you're in essence eliminating the third party NIL deals. That's how I would take it, because it's not like, I can just throw this guy an NIL deal that goes to nothing. You know what I mean? I like, is it a percentage of your marketing dollars? Like, what are you trying to do? And I think that could be an easy way of doing it for college football.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. I like the executive order.
And then one of the other questions came in. Where was that? From Chris Kersey. Who was the quiet leader when you all played at Ohio State?
Yeah, AJ didn't say much, bro.
That's what I was going to say.
Nate AJ and Nate, like our two captains on defense were AJ and Nate Sally.
Yeah.
And both of them led by actions. Like Nate never said anything. He would nasty Nate, like he would hit you, right? And AJ never said anything, you know. Or I remember one time he mother effed me when I told him about a forward first crosser. He's like, you know, like that's it. That's how they talk.
Yeah. But yeah, both those guys, I would say both of them were kind of
too, man. Like Rob.
Yeah, Robbie didn't really talk much. A little bit. I think he would say more because he kind of had to. But AJ, I joke because we're on here. I mean, we used to gobble up most of the oxygen in the room, so he didn't have to talk, or I don't know if there wasn't air for him to speak.
It was probably like 3/4 you know, a quarter me. And AJ, that leaves him 0. So
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot left.
He would just sit there and laugh.
Yeah.
At Fick, making fun of my unathleticism and your comments of reading Bucknuts and playing Journey on his computer.
Yeah, you know, that's it's kind of what it was. So yeah, it was good stuff.
Great times.
Good times.
So laugh at the rocket ship genitalia that was on the board, and he would just giggle.
Mm-hmm. And that's all you need. And like, listen, like Ryan was talking about with Jeremiah Smith, he doesn't say a lot, but he leads by his actions.
Yeah.
And so like if you show up and you're above reproach because you're always doing the same thing right all the time, then you're fine. And so that was definitely those guys as well. All right, coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show. Schleg's due to the weeks, and pretty darn excited about that. Stay locked in. All right, Schlegs, take it away.
Oh man, I just put the picture in the group chat. But anyways, my dude of the week, Joe Wilson IV, aka Q, aka Quattro, Ohio State golfer. He won the Ohio Amateur this year, and he's been battling through some things. He had a great speech about it, just talking about all the people that pour into him. So Joe Wilson, Quattro, our guy, Buckeye. Ohio Amateur. There's another famous Buckeye that won the Ohio Amateur too, a couple times. But it was just cool to see that. And then also, Coach Jay sent me the video, and I was like, man, that's a dude that gets it. What about you, Bob?
You got a sweet stash. No, that is it, dude. You get the dude of the week this week. You are the lone wolf. Great week. Next week we will be in camp mode, Schlegs.
Dude, August 1st, bro.
And yeah, 1 week from today, I got to get some running in and pace that
out. I told
ready.
Everybody too, Bob. I was like, hey, if you see Bob or myself out there and you're there, like, yell at us and then introduce us with your handle name from the group chat.
Yeah, so we know who you are.
So we can put a handle name with a face.
Absolutely.
We'll be more than happy to talk to you guys.
Put the handle with the face. That's it for today's show. It wraps up the week. Talk to you on Monday on the Bobby Carpenter Show.